welcome to Serving Your Success. My name is Dr. Anthony Gatling, and I'm sitting in for your host, Angela Goeglein, today. And today I'm going to be talking with Richard Goeglein. Richard, it's great to see you. Great to have you on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I think the most significant thing I can tell you right now is that on the 21st of this month, I will have been married to Andrea Goeglein for 37 years. And I'm truly grateful that she's put up with me that long.
It's the 22nd.
That is amazing, Richard. So today we're going to be talking...
Now you know why she's put up with me.
I'm starting to get it. So today we're going to be talking about resilience. We're going to talk about resilience. Richard's got a lot of experience with this topic, and I just can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
Well, you know, I think resilience truly is the focus and the strength that you have to live a really meaningful and personally satisfying life. It's that ability to take on life's good, bad, and ugly and make it all work for you, not against you. And it is a skill that can be taught, but some people, I think, come by it more naturally than others.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, Richard. You know, people who are resilient tend to demonstrate that resilience when faced with difficulty. Has that been your experience as well?
Well, it has indeed, and over the years I've had a fair share of being thrown under the bus. In fact, as a chief executive officer in 3 different occasions, I was terminated. And in both instances, I just literally was shocked, I was surprised, and I was candidly very unhappy about it. But I turned around, I picked myself up, and I looked at each one of those terminations as a real opportunity to now change my life's paths and find another page on that journey of this life that I've been following.
You know, sometimes those critical life events do have a way of testing our resilience. You know, I'm reminded of Betty Ford. You know, when I think about resilient leaders, resilient, authentic leaders, I often think about Betty Ford because it's those traumatic experiences. And I don't know about the audience, but being terminated is a traumatic experience. So, Richard, after that happened to you the first time, what was it? What were the things that you did to come back from that?
Well, I'd start off by telling you that when I got terminated the first time, it was in a little restaurant company that I had taken public called the Hungry Tiger, and it was in that time where Los Angeles was going through the first energy crisis. And being a dinner house, suddenly people were on gasoline rationing, and their whole dining out experience changed. And so while the company continued to be okay, our numbers went way south, and the principal owner was really embarrassed and really mad because he wanted to find an excuse of why the stock was going down and not just because of the energy crisis. And with that, he terminated me. And I was shocked. I was really, really shocked. I was angry. I didn't have anything to do with the energy crisis, and the restaurants are actually running pretty well. I really sat down in my home that evening, and I cried. And I had 2 little kids. I had a big mortgage. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank. And what the heck was I going to do? Well, a few days after this happened, a really good friend of mine who I had worked with before, who happened to be a PhD organizational psychologist, called and he said, "Richard, this is Len. I heard you got fired. I have a new offer for you. Come to work for me, my place, my office, 8 to 5, all the counseling you need, no charge. You just don't get paid while you're finding your next place to go to work." That was a godsend. I had never, ever thought of the need for that kind of support. Had I not had it, I'm not sure I would have moved forward very well.
Well, that's really interesting because what you're describing in that example is sort of a divine intervention, if you will, something that you had no knowledge of intervening and on your behalf and opening up a door in which you walk through. I think oftentimes people who are confronted with setbacks and challenges and disappointments don't always look for those doors. They kind of bury themselves, in the fetal position, if you will, and really implode with self-pity. But clearly you heard the call, you answered the call, and you went to find out what the opportunity was about. That's
Anthony, what you said about burying themselves, I'd actually done that. I'd literally spent 2 or 3 days just like in a cocoon. And all of the self-confidence and all of the optimism that I had just naturally had most of my life was just gone. And when he made that phone call, it all just came back in a rush. He gave me that bit of, catalytic energy that allowed me to find myself again and move forward. And it was one of the most significant opportunities I've ever had of being fired. Because I ended up going to work with a very large multinational in New York City called W.R. Grace. I went in and became the chief operations officer of a $1.56 billion multinational company in consumer services and products.
Wow.
From this little bitty restaurant company that I had taken public. It was a great, great opportunity. I've never forgotten what a fantastic thing it was when I got fired.
So you mentioned earlier that there were several of these type of incidents that occurred in your career.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what the most difficult comeback was? What was the most difficult challenge to overcome? What was it that brought out the greatest level of resilience in you?
That's an interesting question, and it causes me to think about a variety of different things, and not necessarily termination. In a sense, maybe termination. When I was an undergraduate at Pomona College in Southern California, I was a pre-med student. That was my major. But my real major was partying and playing. And the dean of men and I got to be very good friends as a result of that.
Okay.
I saw him a lot. At the end of my sophomore year, he invited me to not return. But God bless him, he saw something in me that really was astonishing. He called the dean of men at the University of Wyoming, knew I wanted to go into agriculture, and they had a conversation on a conference call with me. And lo and behold, the dean in Wyoming said, okay, you can come to summer school. I get to pick the classes, and you get to get straight A's, and if you do, we'll let you in your junior year on probation. And the classes? Well, let's see, it was organic chemistry, it was college algebra, and botany. 2 of the courses that I absolutely hated as pre-med. And I took a moment and I thought, that's crazy. That's insane. Why would I do that? And then there was just this rush that said, why would I not do that? And I took the challenge, and it literally did change my life. And got my straight A's, got in on probation, and ended up on the dean's list the rest of my college career at Wyoming.
That's really interesting because what you described there was the thing that challenged you the most. You might even argue in that episode in medical school sort of defeated you, and then you were presented with another opportunity to face that challenge once again, and you took it and you overcame it. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
I would say that is the quintessential example of resilience.
I had one other experience that it is a resilience kind of an experience, but really from a different angle. Something that most people would view as being very positive happened to me after I graduated from the University of Wyoming. I went into the Aviation Officer Candidate Program for the U.S. Navy. Went to Pensacola and discovered the Marines ran the pre-flight academy. Long story short, after 3 months of going through all of the stuff in boot camp and indoctrination and whatnot, they had a class event where the instructors at the academic side, the military side, and your classmates selected regimental officers that would then run the regiment of all of the cadets for the next month. Now, I had tried really hard to hide the whole time I was doing all of this. The last thing I wanted to do was anything that was high profile. There was nothing I wanted to do less than that. And I was picked as regimental commander.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in that room in absolute shock and really almost terrified, because that's not how I saw myself. I didn't see myself as a leader. I didn't want to be out front. And here I was going to be in front of some 1,000 cadets running 5 battalions for this month with a Marine colonel. And that, in a sort of a reverse way, really required me again to step up and move out of a comfort zone and take on the challenge.
You know, that's really interesting, because what, again, you're talking about here is opportunities presenting themselves. And you know, sometimes I guess in our own mentalities we can defeat ourselves, and the need for resilience in the way that we think about ourselves and our confidence level becomes great. And it sounds like that was a catalyst that really launched you into your leadership career, almost.
Well, it did, in fact, because, as I said earlier, up to that point, I never ever thought of myself as a leader. I was never, a class officer. I never ran to be a class officer. I always was, with a group of kind of leadership kids, but I wasn't one of the leaders. I was part of their group. And suddenly, there I was, the leader that had gotten picked by my classmates and so on. And it really did change the focus of my life, so that when I went on to graduate school to get my MBA, my actual objective was to become the president of a company, any company, CEO and president, before age 40. And I managed to do that by the time I was 35. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. One of the things about resilience, resilience is one of those characteristics that's defined in the authentic leadership theory. It's a positive psychological capacity, and not everyone has resilience, Richard. But along with resilience, there's optimism, there's hope. There is this determination and persistence to overcome even in the face of great difficulty. So tell me, Richard, how would you characterize hope as it relates to this concept of resilience? How would you see those two concepts being related?
Well, I think as you think about resilience and hope, it really comes down to having to put yourself into a position where you really understand who you are, what you really want in your life, and to really know it and to own it, and then to step forward to really evolve your core values, to really find a way to understand your unique strengths and to really use them to the best of your ability, and never let go of them. And I think some of the things that I believe are really critical to anybody, regardless, is a value of integrity, keeping your word,
Sure.
just no matter what.
Sure.
And if you do that and you have enough time, here and there where you believe something strongly, you've given your word to it, and then things kind of go sideways, backwards, and you get thrown under the bus. But you still didn't give up your integrity. Your word was still there. And that then builds self-confidence. And then after you have that first experience with the self-confidence part, and something good happens, like what I explained at W.R. Grace, it happens, and it happens so positively, you think, oh, gee, maybe I shouldn't think about adversity and quote, failure as anything other than an opportunity to find my new, exciting, and challenging place.
You know, and I think that's really the summary of what I would characterize as this talk we've had on resilience is to never give up hope, and to look at setback, failure as opportunity. So, Richard, I just want to thank you for the time today. Once again, I am sitting in for Dr. Andrea Goeglein, and this is Serving Your Success. Thank you.